I hope you're having an amazing day. So today we're going to talk about recipes in Einstein Analytics, right? All these days we were talking about the data flow, right? And we looked at how to slice the data, how to create a data set using a data flow, right? So we're going to talk about recipes today. So imagine a scenario where you have multiple data set, right? And you wanted to create a data set out of that data set, multiple data set, then you will use the recipes. If you wanted to clean up the data and you wanted to have a columns which is more cleaner, in the sense, for instance, let's say you have an amount column which says like 10, 20, something like that, and if you wanted to add a dimensions to it, you can do that using recipes. You can do a lot of stuff, right? So that's exactly what we're going to do today. So once that's done, I'm going to talk about feature engineering and machine learning. So today's both the session go hand in hand, because feature engineering is about the cleaning the data, right? That's one of the most commonly done stuff in machine learning, and that's where 60 to 70% of time is invested, mostly by machine learning practitioner, because if you don't have a right data, right, your model won't work efficiently, right? Okay, so if you're someone who hasn't attended my machine learning, so I will encourage you to please go and check out my other Einstein video, where I've covered the first part as the topic related to Einstein, and the second part I talked about machine learning, right? I'm not talking anything with respect to code, so this is not a coding session, as I always mention, right? So if you haven't watched my other Einstein videos, please go and check it out, right? Cool. All right, so the first thing first, you need to register to your work, which has Einstein Analytics on it, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to go to, this is my setup page, right, as you can see. We go to Einstein Analytics Studio, and then you have to go to Data Manager. You can go to Data Manager in two ways. One using the Data Manager on the left-hand side, or you can go to this a gearcog icon, and there is a drop-down option which takes you to Data Manager. So you can choose either way, right? So let's go to Data Manager from here. So it's up to you whichever way you want. And let's go to the demo flow, which we worked on before. So what I've done, I've created two contacts. So let me go take you here. So I've created two contacts, and I have linked the contacts to our existing accounts. If you remember, we created two accounts, that B1 and B2 accounts. So I wanted to have a contact data set along with the existing data set what we have. So, and then link this contact data set to the existing data set. So the existing data set, if you remember, let me take you here. So this is your account and the beer sold, right? So beer sold is a custom object, so which has an account as a look of master detail field, right? So and I've created a data set, so which is and registered as reg ACC beer dataset, right? Which is a combination of account and a beer sold dataset, as you can see from here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another dataset, which is called a contact dataset, and I'm going to combine these reg beer and the contact, and we'll create a recipe out of it, right? That's the whole plan is about today. Okay, so the way you create a contact dataset is pretty straightforward. So first you create SFDC digest. So I'm going to do as a contact data, and the source object should be contact. So we need a few fields. So the fields, obviously we need account ID, because that's the key which can link this data set to the other data set, because account ID is the common one, right? In all the three objects we're dealing with, one is the beer sold, one is account ID, and the contact. So, sorry, not account ID, the account data set. So then we need the last name, okay, and then I need a first name, and probably, probably I need first name, and I might need phone number as well. So that's the only thing I need. Okay, and then we're gonna do a register, sorry, So we're going to do register contact data set, right? The source node will be your contact data because this is the source node, right? And then alias you can put as contact dr, right? Data register, so you can put it. You don't have to worry about the sharing resource. We're going to talk about it in our coming session, right? Okay, just create it. So one thing you need to understand that you need to update your data flow before you create a recipe, right? If you are in the middle of updating, then you can't really work with your recipes, because this will feed as an input to your recipe, right? If your output that is from your data flow it's not complete, then you can't really use the recipe in a very efficient way. So we're going to update the data flow as usual. You know that when you update the data flow it takes some time, right? So let's refresh it, and it's very interesting. You know, once you if you think this is a bit overwhelming, don't worry about it. You will understand when I demonstrate the recipes. It's a powerful feature, right? Because what happens is that if you are an Einstein consultant, right? If you are even if you're a developer, Salesforce developer who deals with Einstein, or if you're a functional consultant or Einstein analytics consultant, you need to understand, you know, the importance of the data flow and the recipes, right? Because sometimes you need to create a chart, you need to create a dashboard, right? So you need to work with your data. That's one of the. This is why I'm teaching machine learning on the side, because it's similar concept, right? You have to deal with the data. And the data cleaning is very important. You can't show to the user or a data which doesn't make sense, right? Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we have done this, so this is pretty straightforward. Now what we're gonna do, we can create a recipe, right? So the way to create, so let's go to data here, right? You can create a recipe two ways, right? First you go to data flows and go to recipes, and you can create a recipe from here. Or the other way is you can go to this one. You can pick up a data source. Let's say this is our main data source, if you remember, which is augmented data set, augmented between using two objects. One is account and one is a BSO, right? So if you go here, and you can create a recipe from here. So let's create from here, and we can name it as our a new data set, right? And create next. There you go. This is very nice looking stuff here. So you can see that all the fields that's a part of that data set being populated here. And this is the data. You can see this is account ID and all kind of stuff. And if you don't want to see some fields, you can actually hide it. There's an option you can hide the column, so it will hide it. And you see one thing, please pay attention to at the bottom. You can see Einstein Suggestion. So this is very handy feature, right? So the reason why I'm saying it's very handy, because let's say we have this field called total amount, right? I wanted to add decimals to this field, total amount, right? So I can. I select this field. You see the Einstein Suggestion changes. You can use dimension, you can use power, you can use square root. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this, I'm going to create a new column using Einstein Suggestion, and where my amount will contain decimals. Right now, it does not contain any decimals, right? So what we're going to do, we select this one, right, and go to dimensions, right, and you're going to add. So we have this one, see? And now I will hide this field. I don't need this field, so hide the column, right? And then we go to attributes here, because I don't like the name of this, right? And I can change the field label as total amount, right? And you can put it as decimals, right? Right, so that's done. And similarly, you can do that for a quantity as well, because the quantity, I don't want the quantity to have no... usually it doesn't make sense, right? To give a beer saying 1.5 beer, right? It doesn't make any sense. But just for sake of completeness, let's say I wanted to add a decimal place. So you can do the same using Einstein Suggestions. It's very powerful suggestions. It uses some kind of algorithms. I will tell you next time what algorithm under the hood. So what we're going to do, so we select this quantity here, right? And you're going to choose the dimensions here, and then you click on add. So there you are, we have a quantity measured. So I wanted to hide this field, so we're going to hide the column, right? And then I go to quantity here, and I go to attributes here, and I change the field label to quantity, and I'm going to put decimal here, right? Nice and easy. Okay, now this is one data set we are dealing with. If you remember in the beginning, I mentioned that we're gonna create a recipe using multiple data set, right? So that's one of the reasons why I've created a contact data set. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the contact data set to it, and you will see the power of the recipe. It will automatically link the key, right? So I'll tell you what I meant by that. So we're going to go to this option here called add data, and we're going to pick up that data set which we created. So this one, contact dr, right? And here you go, voila. So you can see the lookup keys. So it's saying that, okay, the unique ID of this field, right? That's an account, which needs to be linked to the account ID of that the previous data set, right? So that's how it linked together. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I can add, or I can remove the columns from here. So what I don't need account here, I don't need record ID, quantity name, I don't need, beer ID, I don't need. So what I need is that last name I need, first name I need, phone, yeah, sounds good, right? And then I do done, right? So that's pretty much all I need to do. So I have restricted the number of fields, and I've tidied up my data set, and I have created this data set using the two data set, right? You can use multiple, 3, 4, whatever you want, right? It's in other words, I would say that's using you're creating a data set using a multiple data set, right, as an input source. So okay, so I've done this. I'm pretty happy with this. So we got beer name. Okay, so one thing I wanted to talk about right here, in terms of string field, the Einstein suggestions are a bit different, right? So you can make it as a lowercase, you can make it as an uppercase, you can do substring, you can do buckets as well, right? So we're not going to do anything, right? And account field, I just add for the sake of completeness, so that's fine. So yeah, I mean, if you think that, oh, everything has to be, okay, you know what? Let's make this as an uppercase, right? All of this field. Okay, so we're going to do, just going to make it add, right? And then I'm going to unhide this one, hide this column. So, and I'm going to change this name to, yeah, okay, name, okay, just going to put uppercase, right? Sounds good, right? Cool. All right, now we're going to save it, save recipe, right? And then we're going to create a data set, okay? Now pay attention where you want this data set to be visible. I want this to be visible on my app, right? And then I'm going to do this. And see, you can get an option here from where this data set is formed. So you can see this, and then you're going to do continue. And you can look at the fields which you want here, right? And you can, if you decide to change them on, you can add, or you can take off the columns from here, right? So pretty nice and handy. So you can schedule it if you want, right? If you schedule it, you can schedule it, or if you, for the sake of testing now, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna run this time only. But I will suggest you that scheduling is the best option, but just read about it. Okay. All right. So the recipe was successfully scheduled. So what we're gonna do. So if you're going to do update data set, no, you don't have to do anything here. So you're going to come here and you go to data manager here, and you will see your status of recipe is still running, right? So it says it's working good. It might take sometimes 10 seconds, sometimes a minute. So depending upon the performance, that's things happening under there. So you see the time. The time is a bit interesting. I don't know what time zone is it, because it's definitely not a New Zealand time zone. I presume it's an American time zone. So 11:35. I don't know which time zone from United States it is, because in New Zealand it's 6:30 Sunday evening, so probably it's a Saturday time zone. Okay, whatever. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so your recipe has been successfully created. So go to data here, right? So here you are. Hang on. Okay, so here you are. So this is your data set. Not this one, sorry. Go here and you can explore it. And let's look at the fields here. Here you go. So this is all we have. So you see, we got a data set now, all the fields we wanted. We have the total amount, so we can have a total amount. So it is in the form of amount, or if you don't want this, you can delete it. And let's say I wanted to have in the form of a name, last name. So you can have in the form of last name. So you see that's the Muller being sold. So let's add first name as well. So you can see that Carl Muller being sold two times. Beer being sold to Carl Muller, and beer shipment, in other words, being sold to the Carl Muller, and the Steve Rogers account has been sold. Beer has been sold 3 times. So, right. So it's nice and easy. So you can customize it the way you want. So this is why the recipes are very powerful. You have different data set. You can combine all of them together and make one recipe out of it and clean the data. And do interesting stuff with it. You can use it wherever you want. So that's pretty much I wanted to talk to you guys today about the Einstein side, right? I hope you guys find some value out of today's session. So it's very easy. If you find it a bit overwhelming, please don't get overwhelmed. Go and practice more on it, right? And read about it, right? Your Trailhead is the best place you can read about it, right? Just don't rely only on my videos. Please go and do hands-on on Trailhead as well, right? I'm trying to, demonstrate in a very simple way using a simple example. I don't want it to confuse you guys, right? So, yeah, so please take it as is a pre-training course. So, after that, I will expect you to go and do hands-on, and do amazing stuff with Einstein, right? So that's all I wanted to talk to you guys about Einstein side today. But if you want to stay back for machine learning, most welcome. So we're going to talk about feature engineering. So that's what we're going to talk today, the feature engineering stuff. So if you are not interested in machine learning, that's fine. I mean, adios from here. Right, but if you want to stay, please stay. Right, cool. Okay, so if you remember in the last session in machine learning, right, we talked about validation sets, right, where we have, where we talked about dividing a data set into 3 parts, right? One is the training part, and this is the validation part, and this is the test part, right? Where we train our model using training data set, and then we validated using validation data set, and then final step is to run using a test data set, right? Which is fantastic. So this will ensure integrity of a model, and we will not have a problem of overfitting or underfitting, right? So that's great. Now, something I'm going to talk about is called feature engineering. So feature engineering is very handy because, usually what happens, this is your model, right? And you expose your model with your input data, which is your input features, right? So features could be of many types, right? Features could be, let's say, in terms of predicting a house price. Very classic example. You have features like number of bedrooms, right? Then you have the city, right? And then what's that called? Probably the garden, if you want a garden. So not number of not garden, garage is the right, parking place or whatever, right? Let's deal with the 2 features for now, right? You can have 50 or 1,000 features, whatever, right? So what happens, right, if you have number of bedrooms, let's say you're getting a data from a different data source, right? You have getting a data in the form of JSON, you're getting a data in the form of an XML, right? So let's say you have a data. So I'm going to write it here. So you are getting a data in the form of, this is data. You're getting a data in the form of a different source. Let's say number of bedrooms, in some places you're getting 1, number of bedrooms, some places null, number of places, some places 10, number of places, some places 4, right? So you have to make sure as a data scientist, right, you have a valid data, because machine model works very well on the numerical data, right? We're going to talk about categorical data, right, in a second when we talk about city. So you have a choice, right? If you have, you can, what you can do. So let's say if you get constantly, right, you're getting no values for whatever reason. You have to decide, right, whether you want to ignore this value, right, or you want to do an imputation. Means you use 0 as a default value, right? Because what happens is that, let's say if you are having a feature, if you're getting a data set, right, or if you're getting a results set from a JSON or XML or from a database or from a Teradata or from wherever it is, right? It's always if you wanted to put that in the form of columns, and if you realize that that specific feature, let's say the number of bedrooms, right, is coming as null in most of the cases, right? So you have a choice. You can ignore it, right? You can exclude that feature. But the problem with that, maybe that data plays a very crucial role in your determining the house price, right? Number of bedrooms plays an important role, right? As you know that if you're going to buy a house, right? If it's a 2-bedroom house, for instance, in New Zealand, it will cost you close to around 450,000, right? And depending, or sometimes 600,000. Even if it's a good area, it can even cost you 800,000, right? Two-bedroom house, not the flat. Apartment might cost you 400,000, 500, and Wellington might cost you 500 or 600,000. If it's a 3-bedroom, it can even go to $1 million, right? If it's a 4-bedroom, 2 million. So, right? So you see the number of bedrooms plays a very important role. So if you are getting a data set which do not have, right amount of value, where the number of bedrooms is like blank, 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 you can ignore it, but your model may not be efficient in predicting the house prices. So you can do imputation. You can actually add 0, maybe, right? It's up to you. I mean, it comes with experience. You have to, that's one of the way you can do that. I mean, that's one of the things you can do, right? Because sometimes ignoring a feature may not be a good solution, right? So you need to work out what is good for the model, right? So that comes with experience. Okay, that's cool. Right, so now what happens is that now we have a problem with cities, right? Let's say I'm going to talk about Wellington cities here, New Zealand cities, right? Probably I can add Australia as well. Right, so let's say our cities are, this is a city, right? You're getting a city value like, say, Sydney. I'm just going to use the short form, right? Auckland, right? Wellington, Brisbane, Melbourne, right? So we got these cities, okay? Now, if I put it here, it's in the form of category, right? These are categorical value, right? So I have one option I can do, right? I can put it as, I can represent in the form of a numerical value, since I said the machine learning model works efficiently with the numerical value, right? So if you have a feature set in the form of string, it's better to convert it to numerical value, right? So based on that assumption, let's say I convert this into numbers. So let's say Sydney means 1, Auckland means 2, Wellington means 3, Brisbane means 4, Melbourne means 5, right? Now, it's okay, but there is a big problem with that. Machine model will consider, might assume that Sydney plus Auckland is less than Brisbane. Does this make any sense? Absolutely not, because what is Sydney plus Auckland less than Brisbane, man? Doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, because it's not like, whereas, if you have value like low, medium, high, right, and you put as 0, 1, and then put as 2, or you can put it as, let's say, if you say that high, right, is greater than medium, it makes sense, kind of sense, right? In computational perspective, high is always greater than medium, right? And so that makes sense. But in terms of city, it bloody doesn't make any sense, right? You can't say that Sydney plus Auckland is, less than Brisbane. It doesn't make any sense, right? Right. So in that case, we're gonna use a technique called one hot encoding, right? So one hot encoding. So this is very commonly used technique. So where we convert in the form of booleans like binary expression 0 and 1, right? Now, I tell you how it works. So let me clean this up, and then we're gonna apply to cities at one hot encoding. So I'm gonna show you how the feature set will look like now. Okay, all right. So let me clean this up. Okay, now we have a city here. So forget about the other feature set, right? So, okay, let's deal with the feature set here. So we have number of bedrooms. We sorted the number of bedrooms, right? So and then we have a city. So we have number of bedrooms 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say we have Sydney, right? And then we have Auckland, right? And then we have Melbourne, right? And we have Sydney, right? And then we have Wellington, right? And then we have what's the other city? Brisbane, right? Okay. And then let's say okay, 3 bedroom again. So we will put Auckland. Okay. Now how this model will be transformed? So how the feature set will be transformed? It's pretty straightforward here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna split, since we're using one hot encoding, right? So we're gonna split the city into different parts. I'll tell you how. So let's put as 1, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, right? Okay, now let's divide it into, because since we are dealing with one hot encoding, which means you can either assign 0, means the value does not exist, or 1, the value exists. So let's start with the Sydney. And let's divide into different cities, right? Auckland. And let's divide this into Melbourne. Let's divide this into Wellington. And let's divide into, which one is it? What did we miss? Brisbane, right? Okay. Now 0. So it belongs to Sydney, right? So that means if you apply one hot encoding, yes. Is it belonging to Auckland? No. Is it belong to Melbourne? No. Is it belong to Wellington? No. Is it belong to Brisbane? No. Auckland. Is it belonging to Sydney? No. Is it belong to Auckland? Yes. Is it belong to Melbourne? No. Wellington? No. Brisbane? No. Sydney? No, because it's Melbourne here, right? So Auckland? No. Melbourne? Yes. Wellington? No. Brisbane? No. Sydney? Yes. Rest of the field? No, right? Sydney? No. Auckland? No. Melbourne, no. Wellington, yes. Brisbane, no. Because this is Brisbane. Sydney, no. Auckland, no. Melbourne, no. Wellington, no. Brisbane, yes. Auckland, Sydney, no. Auckland, yes. Melbourne, 0, 0, 0. See, this is how we got hot encoding, right? One hot encoding. So now we will not have a problem of comparing if Auckland greater than Melbourne, right? So this is very commonly used of, a technique in feature engineering, right? And then we have a log expressions, we have binnings and other stuff, right? So I won't be talking about that today. So I wanted to make it very simple, super simple. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. This is a feature engineering. We can't use numbers here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, because I demonstrated the problem with that. It might try to compute, it might say, oh, this equals to this plus that, right? So that doesn't work really, right? Unless it's something to do with high-low. So that's a different kind of category, right? Where you can actually use numbers to compute, right? So this is the very simple explanation of one hot encoding, right? So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. The feature engineering is very, very, very important in machine learning, right? Data scientists spend so much of time doing feature engineering, right? So collecting the data and normalizing the data or denormalizing, feature engineering, this plays a very important role, right? So if you're someone who's from a business consulting background, so I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. I haven't used any programming. I haven't used any NumPy or other like Python libraries here, right? So it's a very simple concept, right? And very simple binary stuff, right? This is how you do. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today, right? Next time we're going to talk about regularization. So hopefully we will dive more detail into that, right? All right then, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I wanted to talk today. Adios and greetings from New Zealand. Take care.